Wait! Before we get into this film that's out in theaters right now, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. This is a A24 film. Who was the director of this film?
Ari Aster, the same guy who did Hereditary, the same guy who did Midsommar. These are two of my favorite movies, so I was really excited to see this one.
Yes, I like those films also. Boy, the beginning image of this film is it's kind of disturbing.
Let's start with the beginning image, because I think it's very important. Because when I saw it, I was like, what? But then once I thought back about it, it actually is, I think, the key image into understanding the movie. So the first thing we see in this film is black. And we hear all kind of weird warbly sounds. And eventually you understand that you are looking through a baby's eyes as he's being born. And it's heavily suggested that this is Beau. We are looking through Beau's eyes as he is being born. Beau slips out, by the way, and falls into the floor, which is kind of funny. I think that's important because this movie's point of view is 100% subjective from his subjective point of view, which means whatever you're seeing, it may be real, but it also may not be real. And that's because Beau is a deeply anxious man. He is nervous about everything. He feels like the whole world is coming after him. We see him walking down his neighborhood, and his neighborhood is complete chaos. There are people jumping off of buildings, things are on fire, people are pointing AK-47s. He walks down the streets, and the scariest guy, the guy with the most tattoos, even his eyeballs are tattooed, the scariest guy immediately zeroes in on him. And he's like, I'm getting Beau today. And Beau's got to sprint into his apartment and slam the door before he can have some safety. Now, when I saw that, I was like, is this like in the future? Is this like some sort of dystopian future? But what it actually was this is how Beau feels like his neighborhood. It's what the neighborhood feels like to Beau. It feels terrifying. It feels scary. It feels like everyone's trying to break into his apartment in particular.
I was like, yo, is this neighborhood the same neighborhood that's like in Double Dragon? That's what it felt like to me.
We learn that Beau is planning a trip to go see his mother through a hilarious, I thought it was just really funny, like coincidences and accidents. Beau's stuff gets stolen. He can't go to see his mother today. He's like, you know what? I gotta go like maybe tomorrow or next week. I gotta sort all this out because someone stole my keys. They stole my luggage. And his mom is like, okay, guess you don't want to see your dear old mother. All right. And right there, I'm like, what does this mean? And literally the next few hours, he gets a phone call and it turns out his mother has died. And that's the whole point of this film. Beau needs to go from point A to point B. He needs to go home to his mother's funeral. But there's a lot of stuff in the way that's preventing him from going immediately. I mean, at first you think all this stuff must be in his head. Like, I don't know, how is this possible? But then in pure Midsommar fashion, Ari Aster gives you another option that maybe it really is not in his head at all. Maybe his mother is truly controlling everything, controlling his every move, watching him as he goes on. Or maybe he's just paranoid. And I really liked that the movie just let you kind of pick whether or not you think what's happening is real or whether what's happening is in Beau's mind.
There was a part where he's like, I got to get out of this apartment, and people are chasing him. There's a freaking weird dude that's above the freaking bathtub, right. and he's wrestling with them. They're both getting naked in there, and I was like, good God! Runs out in the middle of the street, gets hit by a van. Before he gets hit by a van, he gets stabbed by a naked dude on the street with his dick out.
And the fact that he's naked with his dick out is actually very important later.
Yeah, gets stabbed and he gets hit by a van and he wakes up in this like nice home with this nice lady and this doctored guy. And the butthole daughter is like, I hate you. Get out of my brother's room because her brother passed away as a war vet.
A veteran.
And then they somehow adopted the war vet's friend that went to war with him. and he has
Who
PTSD.
has severe PTSD.
I mean, crazy.
Yeah, severe.
He's like, I have to leave. I have to get to my mom's funeral. I called our friend, our mutual friend Blair, and Blair said that this is the scene that makes sense the most to him because, you know, within that family unit, the sister is upset because she feels like Beau is trying to take her brother's place. The mother is there to take care of someone that she lost. You know, what do you think about that scene?
It's hard to talk about that scene, very much like in Hereditary. Hard to talk about Hereditary without talking about the twist. So I'm going to go straight to spoilers. Full spoilers from here on out. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry. But we learn later that Beau's mother is not dead. And all of this was a ridiculous ploy to get Beau to come home. The most passive aggressive, keyword on aggressive, way to get him to come home. And the reason why that's important for this scene is we learn later that all those people in that house were employees of his mother. So what they were doing and their motivations were strange and unclear, but that's because there was a bigger game afoot. There was more happening here. All of this stuff was here to essentially mess with Beau, to hurt Beau. Beau's mother seems to show love through pain and through manipulation. And while all this is going on, the matriarch of the little family unit that Beau finds himself in their house, she's whispering to him. She's like, turn on channel 78. Don't act so guilty. You know, and he's like, what? And he turns on the TV and it turns out he's being surveilled. He's being watched the whole time, you know? So I think a lot of that stuff, it does feel, at the time, it feels very random. And it makes you feel very anxious looking at it. Because you're like, what is happening? Why is the girl drinking paint now? What's happening? Who is this? And when you realize later that these are probably 2 patients under Beau's mother's care and 2 employees. Whether or not they were actually a family unit, I think is unclear. They may have been, but I also think that might not be the most important part of that whole scene.
Look at my boy digging deep, man. My boy he digs deep, people. Okay, when it comes to, I don't use my brain sometimes when I go in these theaters.
The movie wants you to play. If you try and guess or think and try and follow what Ari Aster is trying to tell you, knowing that you don't have all the answers until the very end, and then thinking back about it, I think you'll see multiple films. Like there's at least 3 different films in this movie. There's a film where Beau's mother is super controlling, like little chess pieces. She's controlling everything.
That's what I saw.
And Beau's mother not only owns just about every business we see in the film. She owns the apartment complex. She owns the airline. She owns the medication that he's taking. His mother owns that. She owns the psychiatrist. She employs just about every human we see in the film. So because of that, Beau's mother becomes almost like godlike, like omnipresent, you know? But at the same time, is she? Or is this all in Beau's mind? So maybe it just, from Beau's perspective, it might just feel like Beau's mother owns and is moving everything. In Midsummer, I was really shocked at how passive Florence Pugh's character is, because a passive character is usually like a bad thing. A character who makes no decisions. In Midsummer, he allowed other people to make decisions for her, which is where the horror came in. That she felt like she was out of control of her surroundings. It's the same thing here. Beau is deeply passive. Deeply. He makes only one decision at the very end, and that's to choke the shit out of his mother. And then he immediately regrets it. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry." You know,
he is codependent a lot on his mother, on a lot of things, because he's always asking, "What should I do? Should I do this?" And he's a grown man.
Beau's passiveness makes Beau's journey really terrifying from his point of view. Yeah. It makes it feel like people are after him. He's being pursued the whole time. Every bad thing that could possibly happen to a human is just about to happen to Beau in every single scenario. Yeah. And the scene you were talking about earlier, where Beau gets stabbed and hit by a car, I think it's interesting that Beau gets stabbed in his side and in his palms just like Jesus, the most pursued person alive, because that's kind of how Beau sees himself. And if you see it, great. And the movie just goes right by, which is very much like Hereditary, where a lot of details are in the background, but you don't yet see it.
He has been continuing to have these dreams. He thinks they're dreams, but they're not dreams. They're actually memories, which his mom reminds him of. She locked him upstairs plenty of times when he was a kid, when he would disobey and not do what she asked him to do.
Right, in the attic.
He went upstairs in that attic and told him, because she basically said, "You want to know the truth? Well, go upstairs in the attic." And
as an adult, he goes up to the attic, right?
Yeah, and he goes around, he sees a withered version of himself. But then he sees my favorite character, Penis Monster.
Right.
I was like, yo! I was just thinking in my mind, I was like, is that supposed to be like a manifestation of his virginity and things like that?
Yeah, because Beau, his mother told him that he would die if he ever had sex. YouTube, bear with me, YouTube, please. Hold on, baby. But because of that, Beau's testicles are humongous. And that's because he's got the most violent case of blue balls that humanity has ever seen. Because of Beau's overbearing mother, who literally put the fear of death in him over showing any kind of sexuality, over showing any kind of masculinity. He really fears his own body. He fears his own genitalia. He fears his own masculinity. And then when he goes up to the attic, he sees a person that Beau's mother says is his father. Beau thought his father died, but apparently his father's in the attic, and he sees a big, phallus monster up there. And again, I think that's because Beau's mother has pushed his masculinity off to the side. He pushed it up into something really scary, off to the side, off into the corners of his mind. So did he actually go into the attic? I don't know. Was there actually a person in the attic? Was his father in the attic? I don't know. I know the monster was not there, but was there a guy in the attic? I don't know. Again, the movie kind of gives you multiple ways to read this.
I'm thinking she's it. She's the problem. I think
she is definitely the problem.
Because if she's the person who can control every aspect of everything that's around her, from her businesses to the relationship that she was in. And she's like, wait, I gotta control you too. Yeah. I gotta control you too. I have to make you feel like you need me. And that's why she was having that argument. She's like, what did I get? What did I get out of this?
Exactly. Right. She was deeply selfish. And we also see that, like, in her house, she's got a little mural to her business. And we learned that her multiple businesses, they all got started the year Beau was born. So she sees both her businesses, her business empires, and Beau as her babies, something she has to watch, something she has to monitor. So she is truly the ultimate helicopter parent. Like, she has been, and then as we see on the wall, we see all these pictures of Beau throughout his life, but there's only one picture of him as an adult. And it's like a surveillance picture. It's like she's been watching this dude.
He walked by, he was like,
yeah, he was like, what?
Yeah, by the end of this film, there was a trial. Like, she was the plaintiff and he was the defender, and he was in the middle of this freaking gladiator arena in the middle of, like, the water. And his boat kept sinking. Like, everything that she kept firing at her lawyer kept firing at her. It just kept getting holes into this shaky ship. And he's like, no matter what he could say, it wasn't working.
Right. He eventually drowns in the water. Now, of course, all of this, I think that part is not very, I think it's pretty clear that's all in his head. That's his consciousness trying to say that, no, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a bad kid. It's XYZ. But his mother's domineering presence, both in the real world and in his mind, like, it was too much to overcome. He was never able to overcome his guilt of being a bad son, even though we see nothing. We see no evidence that he was ever a bad son. I mean, like I said, he's so passive. He doesn't make any decisions at all. We don't really see no evidence of his personality, really, except that he's anxious. So whether or not he actually is bad or something like that, unclear. But we do know that he has deeply disappointed in his mother. Deeply. Because he just did not come home enough. He ain't come home fast enough. He doesn't call her enough. She doesn't know nothing about him. So she says, right? Because the actress, oh my gosh, she gives this killer like monologue at the end, and it is just terrifying. The movie makes this like shift into like Midsummer territory where it's like, oh, she is true. She's the monster of this film. That trial I thought was really interesting because I'll be honest, sometimes that's how I think in my head. I can always think of all the bad things or everything that'll like beat myself up. But in any of my defenses, even if they're like realistic, they sound small and they sound petty. They sound like they're far away, you know? And I feel like I really understand how you felt there.
Don't ever beat yourself up though. You are your own superhero at the end of the day. All right.
And that's something that Beau never learned. He never learned that.
What I saw wasn't a bad film. But it was a film that you have to keep up with. I'm going to give this film a B+ because of one, the direction, 2, the acting was superb, 3, the visual effects was top notch. It's going to be nominated sometime this year for that. But I'm taking points away because I would like for this film to be more for the average viewer. It takes a lot of breaking down to be able to enjoy it. I did enjoy myself because I love watching anything that's going to make me think very hard about it, but 2, that's going to give me some comedy, some horrific imagery, and just a beautiful performance.
So I really struggle with my grade here. I want to give it an A because I actually really enjoyed this film, but I'm going to give it a B+, and I'm going to give it a B+ for different reasons than you. I'm giving it a B+ because of its length. I thought there were times where I think Ari Aster made his point and the scene could have ended, but it kept going. And I always think that might be a mistake. In particular, there's a scene where he's watching a play and Beau is putting himself in the play and he's imagining that he's the main character in the play. But it went on twice as long as I thought was necessary. But aside from the length, I really enjoyed this film a lot because it gave you a lot to chew on. It felt like I watched multiple movies at the same time. I can think back about this movie, again, very much like Hereditary. I can think back about this movie and see one movie, and I can think back about it and see another. I can see a movie about a very anxious man who's making up all kind of crazy things in his head, and then I can also see another movie about a mother who is absolutely beaten the life and the personality right out of her son, you know? And I can also see a blend of both, you know? But like you said, if you've grown up on a diet of, I don't know, Marvel films or something like that, like this is gonna be tough. But I think like these big blockbuster films, they don't ask anything from you. They say, you sit down and we'll take care of it all. Don't worry. Everything will be explained 5, 6, 7 times just for you. But that's not what this movie is. And I think a lot of people that might feel odd or uncomfortable because you've got to, like you said, you do have to, you know, think about the film. So I really, really like this film, and it made me really excited for the future of what Ari Aster does. I mean, the fact that this film was his first non-horror film, or was it non-horror? Unclear.
Yeah, unclear.
Yeah, but the fact that he seems to be drifting away from this kind of like Midsummer Hereditary thing, and it's still, I think, giving you the same kind of quality film. I think that's really exciting. So for sure. I think Ari Aster he's working on a different wavelength than just about every other working director.
Do you recommend it for people to see? What type of person do you think should see this?
I do recommend you watch this film. If you're an adult, I think you should watch this film. Now, does that mean I think everyone will enjoy it? No, because I know most people aren't accustomed to seeing this. When they go to see a movie, this is not what they expect, right? Mm-hmm. But I think most people can think. You know what I mean? I think, and I think most people can look at themselves and can look at this film and can reflect on what they saw and maybe come to some sort of conclusion. I think most people can figure this out if you want to. But if you want to dismiss it and say it's crazy and say it's stupid, I think that's okay too.
Yeah, I think you should see it too, to be honest with you. Even though like I said, I do wish that Ari not spoon-fed information to people, but I just wish it was a little bit more, I don't know what the right word to say, breathable maybe for viewers.
He leaves things kind of broad, and he kind of walks away from things and lets you figure it out. I would tell everybody, just like this title, Beau Is Afraid, don't be afraid to think about the movie. Don't be afraid that this movie won't hold your hand. Don't be scared. And it's okay if you still don't like that kind of thing. I also think it's important to say that, like, I don't think everyone has to like everything. To me, sometimes I get frustrated when movies work so hard to create a consensus over the film, to say this movie was good. Everyone likes this movie. Because what you're going to get is a bland, boring film, right? You know what I mean? You're going to get something you've seen before.
But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Have you seen Beau Is Afraid? Please get in the comments and let us know what you thought about this film.
I'm sure you'll do the right thing, sweetheart.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new to seeing us, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right at the bottom, all right? And if you did like our rating and review for this film, please hit that thumbs up. It really does help out the channel. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion, but just remember one thing. It's mostly wrong. See you in another video. Peace.